Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special segment today on the 20th day of June 2023. Hey, it is a very significant day, and right now in Brisbane it's 13 degrees and sunny, and it's been predicted to go up to about 24 degrees today. Well, good news is, and making news is that Australia's vote to the voice after the referendum bill passes the Senate. And today we will be talking about that. In fact, we'll be inviting you to join in on the conversation with us. And our studio number is 0484 279 150. It will be on the screen, scrolling at the bottom. If you would like to talk to today, we have in the studios with me Walters and Michelle. I'll be introducing them formally in a minute, but they will be talking about the Yes campaign. Why? So if you have any burning questions, they would be more than happy to answer that. But first of all, let's take a look at that momentous moment when the bill passed the Senate.
This is an incredibly significant day in the history of our country and the Parliament.
Probably one of the most momentous days in the history of our nation.
Well done. Well done on the assimilation agenda.
Now, what we need is action. That is the responsibility of all of us, Indigenous and non-Indigenous.
A bill and act to alter the Constitution.
Today was a day for Australia's Parliament to formally clear the way for a referendum on constitutional recognition for Indigenous Australians and for an Indigenous voice. The Parliament had taken up the debate started by activists like Pat Anderson.
Australia is one of the few liberal democracies in the world that does not have any arrangement, any settlement with its First Peoples. This is big for us, and we can do better than we're doing. And it's not a big ask. Yes, it has to have some power. Yes, and you will give us the power. When you vote yes, we have the mandate of the Australian people. And then we can talk as equals, more equal, with the Parliament and the executive of the day.
Today, the political debate ends. Today, we can start a national conversation at the community level.
Linda Burney's declaration that the political debate has ended may be a bit optimistic. For starters, there is the practical consideration that politicians on both the yes and no side of the debate will be tasked with framing the pamphlets putting their respective cases. And it is hard to believe that what has already become an often bitter debate, and a very political debate, will be something different anytime soon. In the past week, the Albanese government has been seriously confronting the possibility that the referendum on the voice will be defeated. There have been hard conversations that have reflected on how the debate has gone until now and where it needs to go in the future. Much of the heavy lifting until now has been done by the people behind the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and the government has taken many of its cues from its own Indigenous MPs and senators. Polling has shown that voters have wanted to hear from Indigenous leaders, from the Prime Minister and from Indigenous MPs. There are now 11 MPs and senators across the Parliament, all with differing views on the voice, and they are likely to continue to play a huge role in the next few months.
And in that next few months, it's going to be a very, very important period. So leading up to that, there'll be many conversations. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about and would like to welcome in the studio is Walters Kempak. He is the organizer of the Queensland Community Alliance. He is engaging with Queensland multicultural communities about the forthcoming referendum and to recognise the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution. So welcome, Walters.
Thank you, Umesh, and thank you for having us to speak on this very important topic. Thank you.
And wonderful to have you here and love the work that you do out there. And next up, Michelle McDonald, who is the descendant of Wiradjuri people. She's married into a Hindu family. That makes it very, very interesting. This is what Australia is all about. And is the mother of a 21-year-old son, Arjun. She is the director of news for the Anglican Church Southern Queensland and is a member of Walters organisation. So once again, welcome to the studios, Michelle.
Thanks so much, Umesh, and thank you, listeners.
And once again, thank you so much to both of you for being in this. So let's get into this topic and find out. First of all, I'll go to you, Walters. If you could probably, let us know the importance of multicultural citizens, over 18 years, getting on the electoral roll, and how important it is for Australians to be part of the democratic process. And now that it's compulsory for citizens over 18 to vote, it is compulsory, but many times people are a little bit disengaged. So how and why is it that very important?
Thank you, Omid, for that very important question. I'm super excited that now that the debate has finished in the parliament, the politicians, is now left for the Australian population to determine the outcome of this forthcoming referendum. What an incredible opportunities for us multicultural folks. It's a unique opportunity because for so long in Australia, we've always been on every agenda, but never have we been on the table. So this is a significant opportunity for us, migrant population, to be on the table because the Australian population has actually determined that we would be the deciding factor of this forthcoming referendum. So what an incredible place to be as a migrant community member. I think it's quite important for us to be involved in these democratic processes because we are here and it's our civil duties to take part to these events like this. And acting in this manner would not only support the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people, but would support us as migrant community. So I think we are incredibly, we are in a very special place in Australian history to be in this position. And why not get on the electoral roll? Why not get yourself informed about what this is all about and what it isn't? Because it's now left to us, and we want to have a seat on that table because we never want to be on those agendas anymore.
And very well said, Walters. And we know that it is very, very important. It is so important that Queensland Multicultural Council is putting together an event which is coming up, where we're trying to get all our multicultural communities to come together. This is supported by Graham Parrott MP and run in conjunction with IEC and Queensland Multicultural Council, where we're not telling people who to vote for, or we never do that. That's your decision. It's up to you. We've got some calls coming in. Are we happy to take the calls as we go along? Yeah, okay. Hello.
Hello, good morning. This is Pala.
Hello. Hello.
I can hear you.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Okay, Pala. Okay, we have got online Palani Thebar, who is the community leader, and he's been representing the Tamil community for a long time. An amazing work that he does. So welcome to the studio of the Palani. You are connected now.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Umesh ji and Australian Indie Radio putting this important subject online today for community to learn and know about the important issue to be addressed as soon as possible this year. But as Umesh ji mentioned, that I'm one of the community leader from India and Tamil. There are people are concerned about, there is a word called Yes Campaign. It is voice Yes Campaign. Just wanted to make sure the difference between when we are talking I support with my wholeheartedly, I support this. However, some people are not sure what's happening, and they think that it's a political agenda. Everything's politics. Some people may not agree with that, but however, just wanted to make sure that the little bit of summarized voice and why it's important for the community to get to know and support this campaign. And then those who are supporting it becomes yes campaign. Just I wanted to understand myself, but also other people in the community to make it clear. Is that make sense?
A very good question, Palani. So over to you, the Walters and Michelle. Who's going to take that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I should go first. Like we've just heard the message that it's gone through Parliament. So this question now lies on the Australian people, and most especially migrants or multicultural population, because we are on the table at the moment. So the onus now relies on us to educate ourselves what this is and what it isn't. And this is about the recognition of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people through a pragmatic voice. I believe our leaders would kind of understand this, because when we as the migrant population, sometimes we feel like we haven't been heard. So if there is an opportunity for people to be heard, I think it's just natural that we as migrant population, we should support that, because we know the danger of not being heard. And the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people have been going for so long with a lot of different difficulties and challenges because they haven't been heard. So if these provide that opportunities for people to be heard, so why not we should all join in and support it. That's why I'm going for yes, and I believe that naturally most of us, the migrant population, would be going for a yes vote. Thank you. Good.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Michelle?
Sure. Well, the way I see it, the Australian Constitution is owned by the Australian people, and this is not so much a political issue as it is a moral one. So the Australian Constitution's been in existence for 122 years, but Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been walking and caring for these lands for 65,000 years. And at the time that the Constitution was set up, the idea of terra nullius, or land belonging to no one, was still considered to be true. Now we know that is no longer the case.
That's true. That
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples were here before Europeans arrived. And so I believe that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have a right to be recognised in our Constitution, given that the Constitution is our birth certificate, the nation's birth certificate, and it's only been around for 122 years, while Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander folk have been walking and caring for these lands for 65,000 years. But at the end of the day, the Australian Constitution is owned by the Australian people, and my vote is worth the same as anybody else's. Walter's vote is worth the same as anybody else's, and the same with Umesh, and the same with every listener. So we collectively own the Constitution, and it's all Australians that will determine the outcome. We will determine the result.
Yep, and I guess that's why it's far away from the politicians, because my vote is equal as that of Albanese's, and Umesh's vote is equal to that of Dalton. So we are the people that are going to be determining this forthcoming referendum, not the politicians, because we are not changing governments. We are doing a constitutional reform to recognize the first peoples of this land, which is an incredible thing, which should have been done long time ago, but this is better too late than never.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I was talking to my son about it last night. So my son is both Indian and Aboriginal descent, so Aboriginal on my side and Indian on his father's side, so he's Tamil descent on his father's side. And I was asking him a few questions last night, and he said a few things to me which really struck me. He said, "Mum, us young people, we just consider this a given. We just think that this should already have happened, and we're wondering why the debate is happening now. And we think it's a great thing, and it should just go ahead with a big yes." He also said that he hoped and expected that, assuming that the referendum yes vote is upheld, and we have this change made in the Constitution to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as our first peoples, he seems to think that it will help unify the country, and that we will, he actually used these words. He says, "Mum, we're going to be less racist as a result. It's going to unify us." And I think, and that really struck me for a nearly 21-year-old to say, and that's what we want.
Absolutely.
And Michelle, you make a very good point there. I guess that makes me quite young.
Yeah, because you agree. Yeah, you're very sprightly for 30, Umesh. Doing well.
Thank you, so.
And
yes, Palani.
thank you. Can I ask one more question? It's more of a comment. From community leaders, some they have expressed saying that I would like to invite people from Yes campaign as well as from the opposite people to be on the same forum to discuss. But what my suggestion was, it is important for community to understand, get to know what is this all about voice. But then they can personally approach, or you can facilitate different event for others. And that's what I said. But what's your view? And is that community can have a debate on these kind of from both sides? And personally, this should not be debated. It should be fully supported by every Australian. That's my view, but it's not the same I expect from the communities.
A very good question, Palani. What we will do is from Australian Indian Radio, we'll try and facilitate one way we can probably get, both sides. But the idea of today is to introduce the Yes campaign and find out firsthand why it is important. I know there are people like you who are community leaders who know.
That's good.
But
Yeah.
I think it's a very good question that you've asked in the interest of the general public. So what we can do is we can facilitate. We might have, someone from who's saying no from opposition as to say why are they saying, so that our listeners and the general public can then make an informed decision, so that they can understand both sides as well. So it's not going to be one-sided, but of course, as we know that many people are supporting. So in that way, we're starting off the conversation today for the series with the S campaign, and of course, that's why we have opened it to everyone, that if anyone has got any questions that they can come, and we'd like to thank you for participating. You've always got community interest at heart.
Great work, and all the best for today, and continue your journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you have any questions as well, you can call us on that number that is scrolling at the bottom there. So moving on with some of the questions before we get into the next caller. But look, by all means, if you have a question, do call us. It's not interrupting us, because that's what today is about. It's about engaging. It's about engaging with the community. So, Michelle, there was a lot of talks, and even in the lead-up story, we talked about, Uluru Statement from the Heart. So, could you just shed some light on that? Who signed it, and a bit of background?
Sure. So the Uluru Statement from the Heart was signed in May 2017 at Uluru in the heart of our nation, and it was signed by 250 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders who were appointed from their various communities to represent them. And the Uluru Statement from the Heart has two reforms, the first of which is the constitutional reform. And that reform is what we're talking about today. It's recognising Indigenous Australians in the Constitution as our First Peoples. And it was decided by the leaders there who signed the Uluru Statement from the Heart that it was important that constitutional recognition be done through a pragmatic voice to Parliament, so that things like the health and life expectancy gap could be addressed and solved, and the education gap could be addressed and solved, and the employment gap. And so this is about a pragmatic voice, because there are gaps that exist between Indigenous Australians and non-Indigenous Australians that need to be addressed and solved. But primarily, this is about constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians as our First Peoples, because they have been walking these lands and caring for these lands for 65,000 years. Canada did this 30 years ago. This is a very normal thing to do. And we just heard Pat Anderson speaking online saying that we're one of the few liberal democracies in the world who are yet to recognise their First Peoples, and this is an amazing opportunity to fix that.
And very well said. And we do have a caller online. So who have we got online?
Hello, my name's Stephen. I'm very, very interested in the Indian community. After I spent some months in India a few years back, and so I just keep an eye on it. I'm also really interested in the voice referendum. I think it's crucial that this one goes through. I think the maturity of Australia depends on it. I think when we get this through, then maybe we can start redressing the imbalance that's been there ever since white people first came here. So my question is, following up on that interest, what response have you been getting from the multicultural communities?
Thank you, Stephen, and that's a very interesting question. The response that we've been having from the multicultural communities is, first of all, they are not really very much engaged in this, and that is, of course, expected because most of our migrant population sometimes have 1 or 2 jobs, and their times are really limited, and of course, they have extended families back home. In the case of the Indian population, they've got people back in India, so they are not 100% engaged. But what I've actually identified is that they are the natural alliance for the yes, because they understand this. They know what challenges are. They know what not being listened to is. So they are naturally, the ones that I've actually spoken to have been 100% open to, and some of them that have had doubt questions, and from what the media has been propagating, now after speaking to them, they have that natural alignment, and they are all for the years. And you could see the reflection of that in Queensland from the last Luminous Parade. It was a 100% multicultural event, and you could see the engagement from every community, from each lantern. They had the yes, like they said, yes, we the multicultural communities in Queensland, we are standing for this because we know how this is important for people to be listened to. So of course, once they are engaged, they are fully on board in this. It's a no-brainer. Thank you.
So does that answer your question, Steve?
It does indeed, thanks.
Yeah, could I add something, Stephen?
Please.
Yeah, so recently there was a resolution signed by well over 100 multicultural community organisations around the country in support of the yes vote, and it's a really powerful demonstration of the support that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have for the yes vote. So if you're a leader and you're listening, so if you're leading a multicultural organisation of any type, please check out Multicultural Australia for Voice and have a look at the resolution. It's very brief, very clear, very succinct, very positive, and please check it out and consider signing it. And what I love about my conversations with multicultural folk is that depending on who they are, they get it for different reasons. So when I've spoken to hundreds of South Sudanese folk about the recognition of Indigenous Australians and the Constitution. And when I talk about a referendum, I actually have to stop talking, especially if I'm talking to a crowd, because they start cheering. They understand the power of a referendum, and they understand that it's about the people deciding an outcome. And it's really, really, really profound, really moving. And other folks, say for instance, people from India who I speak to, they understand the impacts of colonialism. And so they understand how important this is for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to address some of the historical imbalances that you've just mentioned. And I just think it's so special that multicultural folk are getting on board in the way they are. Having said that, there are a lot of multicultural folk who are yet to get on the electoral roll. And this is a democracy, and it's really, really, really critical that everyone participates in our democracy. So if you're listening and you're a citizen and you're 18 years or over and you're not on the electoral roll, it's really easy to get on the electoral roll. You go to the Australian Electoral Commission website and you can download a PDF and fill out and print it and fill out a form manually, or you can actually just fill out a really quick online form. And if you've recently moved addresses, it's really important to update your address on the electoral roll. But I'm really excited. Like, I've actually chosen to work with Walters and spend my time working on this campaign with Walters because I'm so excited by the conversations I'm having with multicultural people about this campaign. I just really want to thank the listeners for their engagement. And for me, this has been the highlight of my support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart and the Yes campaign, and that's engaging with multicultural folk in the conversation.
And very well said. Just touching a little bit on the Indian community, I believe the Indian community is on par, and they quite understand the voice, especially in many parts of India, where there are some certain seats that are reserved for the community of that section, so that you can get all politicians coming in. But the people of the land there, they need to have their voice because they know best what's coming from them, looking at it from their perspective as well. So that is very, very good. Okay, I'm also conscious of the time. So moving on, the next question is for you, Walters. We are engaging in many ways with a lot of multicultural communities. I believe you are organizing a football and family fun day. So how is that going?
I did mention earlier that it's really our communities are heavily engaged, so we've got to really think out of the box to get them engaged because it's their civil right, and we expect that before anyone goes to the referendum to write yes, they know exactly what this is all about. So through sport, at the moment organizing football, which is the war sport. I know the Indian community would rather prefer cricket, but we would start with football. It's locally called in Australia soccer. We are doing that across southeast Queensland, starting from Toowoomba, Brisbane. The Sunshine Coast one is on the 2nd of July, Sunday the 2nd of July, between 12 noon and 5:30 p.m. I'm really excited that our Indian community on the Sunshine Coast is fully engaged with this. And this is just a day. It's not just a day for sport, but it's a day for an informative day where we would be listening to the Uluru Statement in different languages and in different languages that are represented, and also an opportunity for people to ask questions, because we would have volunteers there that would have understanding what a referendum is, what the voice to parliament is, and where it came from, the Uluru Statement, and even leading right back to the dialogues. So everything around this family fun day will be crafted about informative, but of course we're going to have some fun with good football and some live music and kid entertainment like rock, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders rock painting. So keep an eye out for your regions, and you could visit the Queensland Community Alliance page for further information around the different locations and the update. So the first one, Sunshine Coast one, is on the July 2nd this year. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Walters. Maybe you might have to just touch a little bit again on that. There was a bit of a technical problem. I've just got a message. Yeah. If you'd like to repeat just a little ending part of way and how people can engage with the football, the soccer.
The soccer. So we are organizing football or soccer tournament around southeast Queensland, starting from Toowoomba, Brisbane, Gold Coast area, and the Sunshine Coast. The Sunshine Coast date is set for the 2nd of July 2023, and this would be a day where we incorporate information like the Uluru Statement being read in different language, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders cultural like rock painting and live entertainment like DJ music and free sausage Caesar and food halal certified sausage Caesar for families to come enjoy. So I'm really super excited that Indian communities on the Sunshine Coast is already set up for the 2nd of July. So if you are listening from the Sunshine Coast, 2nd of July is your destination, 12 noon to 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah, Kawana Football Club.
Kawana Football Club, definitely.
Yeah, and bring your kids. I'm running the kids' activities. So want to see some cute Indian kids joining the activities? It'll be fun.
Definitely.
Sounds like a lot of fun there as well. Okay, now we'll get into a little bit about the voice and what it's going to be like. People would like to know. I know we have touched on the Uluru statement. That's a little bit more that we can, a lot of details that we can go into. But today, Michelle, maybe for the benefit of the listeners and viewers, we will keep to the key points. So the key point being, so what would the voice be like? What would the representation be like?
In March, the government released and committed to 2 pages of design principles that the referendum working group created. And it's really, when I read through design principles, I can see how the egalitarian nature of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples is coming through. So, for example, all of the appointments for the voice, so everyone who's appointed on the voice will be appointed by community, by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. So it's going to be coming from the grassroots and representing the grassroots, which is what we want, especially when we've got situations in our remote communities where some folk don't have access to clean drinking water. These are some of the issues that the voice is going to address. There's also going to be fixed terms, which is going to ensure that voice appointees share that membership and share that role, and will also ensure accountability to community. There's also going to be a balance of genders. There's going to be youth involved. There's going to be accountability structures built in, and there's going to be Aboriginal folk from across the country, as well as Torres Strait Islander folk from the mainland and Torres Strait Islander folk from the islands. So yeah, it's great. You can check out the design principles on the Australian government website or on the Uluru Statement from the Heart website if you would like more detail.
And I'll quickly just add to that, this has been the most comprehensive consultation that has been done with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people. It's been the most extensive in this that has ever occurred. So it has a very strong foundation, and that's why I'm especially very excited about the future of it to bring Australians together.
Yeah, and what it's about is, so the actual wording, so the constitutional wording, which was passed through Parliament yesterday, paving the way for the referendum. So what the wording says is that the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice may make representations. And what that means is that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander folk may offer a view. That's literally all it means. It's a really modest ask. They just want to offer a view on matters that impact their people. And we're talking health and education and employment and like the clean drinking water that I just mentioned. It's these kind of really fundamental things that the voice will advocate for. But may make representations is a modest ask. It literally means may offer a view. So it's not consultation even. It's not consensus. It's literally just offering a view. And the other thing too, the Parliament will retain supremacy. So in an ongoing way, Parliament will continue to shape how the voice will work, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures. So it's constitutionally very safe.
Yes.
And you have explained that quite well, Michelle, but I think one of the questions that keep up coming a few times within the community is that when we look at our indigenous people, there are many different tribes and quite diverse, almost I must say as diverse as India is, between all different states. So will there be representation from all, because that is a concern, not a concern, but I mean, this is something which I've had in passing during my consultations.
Yeah, sure. So the exact numbers haven't been decided upon yet. That will be something that Parliament will decide upon, and I'm sure they will have input from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples about that. So I'm not concerned at all because they will have that input, and Parliament in an ongoing way will shape how things work. So if things need to be adjusted, that will be done. So I have complete confidence. And yeah, so for me, it's really important that both Torres Strait Islander peoples from the mainland and the islands are represented on The Voice, as well as different Aboriginal nations. But because there's going to be fixed terms, the membership's going to be shared.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things is that when I just said about the foundation of this, that is from the lead from the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which I encourage every one of our community members to listen to that. I believe it's on SBS side, Spotify side in different languages. Perhaps your local language would be represented. So I implore you to listen to that. And this from the statement and the composition of that statement is the most comprehensive that has ever been done. And when the most important thing now is for us to actually get this constitutionally enshrined in the constitution, and then the parliament, like Michelle said, would have that further consultations where every other community would be represented. We cannot actually put everything into the wording of these, because for that to be changed, we would need another referendum. So that's why the word is just specific. But going back to the groups that have been consulted, this has been the most comprehensive in Australian history. No other party, red or blue, has been able to do this sort of in-depth composition, bringing people from divergence to come to the Uluru, and where they came up with this wonderful invitation to the Australian population. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I thought, because that was one of the questions that kept coming up from time to time. People say, and we know that is, in every community, when a leader is chosen or a representative is chosen for any point, there will always be some people who will oppose. They can't always please everyone. But we're looking at the broader context. In the broader context, meaning that it is going to be, looking at everyone.
I'll just say one
yes.
thing. I'm so confident, because if 250 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples can come together and in less than a week sign the Uluru Statement from the Heart, I'm absolutely confident that The Voice is going to function well and be truly representative. I mean, in my family, we sometimes struggle to decide what we're going to do for Christmas, what we're going to do for Easter, what we're going to do for public holidays together. So the fact that 250 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander folk gathered together and came to a consensus about what they wanted, and they put it in a statement and signed it, that gives me complete confidence. There's such will and consensus among Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders about this, leaders from the grassroots particularly.
And that is very important, because for it to work, it needs to be all inclusive. And as both of you have mentioned, that it has been a very comprehensive, very inclusive consultation, and everyone is on board. Just in conclusion, Michelle and Walters, is there anything you'd like to say in summary?
I think, like I opened up to say that, for so long in Australia, we have been on every agenda. You go to workplaces where there's like inclusion and diversity, and you go to this, there is multiculturalism, there's all those sort of things, but those are always on paper. But this, my community members, especially the Indian community members that we are communicating to today, this is an opportunity for us to not be on that agenda, but come on the table for this very important historical moment in Australia, to make our case known, to sit on that table, to exercise our right that we are here, and it's been determined that we are the deciding factor of this referendum. A lot of other callers have made their stand, but we are the people that would push this thing across the line. And why? Because we know the importance, the damage that colonialism caused on ourselves. Also, we know the challenges that not being heard actually does to ourselves. So this is actually an opportunity to set a precedent that if people are listened to carefully from advice on issues that actually affects them, then a better result is it's awaiting all of us in the future. So why not take this as a personal initiative, not just that you are supporting the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people, but that you are doing something for yourself, because this is the moment for us to sit on that table and make our voices heard by voting yes and standing for the fact that we want people to be heard irrespective of who they are, but they should be heard, because we want that for ourselves. Of course, we will want that for the for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. I think that's the my message for listeners out there. Thank you.
And I think the last thing I have to say is that one of the things I love most about the Uluru Statement from the Heart is that it is an invitation to the Australian people, and that's the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander way. They are invitational in their culture, and I really want to respond with a big yes to that. And what I love most about what this is offering us as a country is that in responding to that invitation, all of our stories will be connected to the stories of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander folk and that 65,000-year legacy that they have. And in doing so, that's going to unite our country.
And very, very well said, because it is very, very important that we unite. Bring everyone together. I'm also conscious of the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a burning question, we have time for one more question. That number is 0484 279 150. And just touching on a slightly side topic there, Michelle and Walters, and sorry to drop this on you, is that there have been often, mixed feelings about when we celebrate Australia Day. If you look at Uluru Statement from the Heart, if you look at the reconciliation, the Sorry Day, and now the referendum, we could be maybe working towards a very common day.
For me, I think that whatever Australian decide as a people, that's what we would go with. If the current Australian Day is seen by most Australians that it's a day that brings hurts to some part of our community, there's an opportunity for us to have that conversation as a nation. I think it's left for the people of Australia to decide. And I think Australians have a very good conscience, because they like to give everyone a fair go. So I think there is a good opportunity to having that discussions in the future. It's been heard that it has some very significant impact on certain population of especially the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people. But I think, again, it's for the Australian people, which we have confidence in, and the migrant population, we have something to say in this as well. So it's up to us to decide that as we move along in unity to a better future. Yeah.
And the day I'm most looking forward to is referendum day. So we know that has to be held between 2 and 6 months after the bill is passed, which was yesterday. So it's, as we understand it, it's going to be the referendum will be held between October and December this year. Has to be held on a Saturday. I believe it will be held in October, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. Walters has his money on a particular day. He likes to be quite specific, my colleague. But yeah, well, we will find out by the end of this month when the referendum will be held, and I'm really excited. I'll have a party when I find out the date. I'm thrilled.
Definitely.
Once again, thank you so much for coming on to the show and sharing those very, very valuable information with our viewers and listeners. And the key points to everyone out there is this is your chance. It's in your hand, not in the hands of the politicians. So, it's passed through the day. Now it is up to you to decide, and exercise your democratic right, and that is one of the great things about Australia. And Walters, I think you rightfully said that Australians always have this unique way of giving everyone a fair go, and I think mates is helping mates and always coming together. It's such an Australian way. Of course, there are certain things we can always improve them. There is always room for improvement in many sectors. But we are renowned for that. For coming together whenever there's a need. So this is the opportunity, as has been mentioned in the show today, that it is now in your hands. It's not on the politicians. They've done their part. It's passed through the bill. The referendum will be there. All of you, please do take part and also look out for that event that is going to be put on by Queensland Multicultural Council together with SSI, supported by Grandparent, where we will guide people through how to vote, what being on the electoral roll means, not saying who to vote for, not changing your opinions. That is very personal. That is yours. Religious beliefs, political beliefs, it is very individual. So that is up to you. But how to do it, why, and many people might not know, especially in the multicultural community. That's why that forum will be organized. Once again, Walters and Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show, and also thanks to all the people who participated, joining in. Now. There will be, often people who might have some other questions. Quite welcome to contact us. We will pass on the details. You can, contact Michelle and Walters offline as well if you have any specific questions regarding anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. Until the next show, it's goodbye from us.